Hey, welcome to Mike's Vintage Tech. Recently I picked up the new M2 Mac Mini. Now, if you notice the name of the channel, this isn't about the new M2 Mac Mini. This is about the Mac Mini it replaced. A very crusty, cruddy, dirty, smoke-filled Mac Mini from 2011, and we're going to get it back up and running. Stay tuned.
Brought to you by Smoking.
Welcome back. If you guys like seeing old computers like this get a second life, consider giving the channel a sub. I'd really appreciate it. Alright, first things first, we're going to get this thing in pieces, spread out. We are going to clean it thoroughly. I already know the hard drive is dead. That's the reason this thing got replaced. This belonged to an older family member who is a very heavy smoker indoors. I put it on his desk in 2011 and it hasn't really moved since. I believe maybe 6 or 7 years ago he mailed it to me and I swapped out the hard drive or erased it, I forget by now. That was the last time it left the bench. So this is years of crud, grime, God knows what on the inside. And it's pretty nasty, so let's get started here. So with the Mac Mini, this version of the Mac Mini, the 2011, is very convenient. You just pop it open like that and you are in. Ooh, this is something. There are those little smokers, cobwebs just hanging out. That's pretty nasty. Yeah, there's more pretty nasty stuff right here. So, and look at that. Look at the imprint or the outline of the fan, and just over a decade worth of cigarette smoke inside this thing. It's something else. So let's go ahead and get this further apart. Now that we got that cover off, the first thing I'm going to take out is the RAM. It's pretty straightforward. He's currently got 8 gig total. This is a 4 gig chip right here. And then the fan comes out with a smaller Torx than the one I got on me right now. So if you have this Mac Mini and you do want to tear it apart, I recommend using the iFixit guide. It's pretty thorough. This thing's been out forever, so there's no hidden secrets about taking it apart. It's all pretty straightforward. The main reason I'm showing you every step here is just so that we can dissect just how filthy this thing actually is. And if you're a smoker, that's up to you. Don't smoke indoors. Somebody's going to want to buy your house eventually. If you're renting your house or, whatever the case, don't smoke indoors. It does this. It's pretty bad. So, all this still works, however, except the hard drive. The hard drive is dead. It is a mechanical hard drive. I'm pretty sure it's the original. I'm not sure if it ever came out. All right, next step here, there's a little plastic cover you just got to pull out. That comes out like that. Usually all black, not tanned yellow, but that's what it is. Once you get that out, you're able to take out the little cowling here. There is the little SATA connection here. If you had 2 hard drives, you could put 2 2.5 inch hard drives in this thing. You can still buy the kit today from iFixit, pretty cheap. It's something I put in my 2012 MacBook years ago, and back when I had it new. Or not MacBook, Mac Mini. And it was a great upgrade, because for what it is, the Mac Mini is a little powerhouse. If you're not doing major, editing on it or anything like that, it's pretty useful. And for what it is, for what a lot of people use computers for nowadays, if you still need a desktop and you're only checking email and Facebook and whatever, and you want a Mac, get a Mac Mini. Now this particular one is going to be carefully get that antenna out. More crud. So this Mac Mini, once I'm done with it, we're not going to put Mac OS back on it. It's a 2011. Whatever it's capped out at OS-wise just isn't useful to me anymore. I do want to make it a modern computer again, not so much vintage. It is 13, 14 years old, so depending on who you ask, it might not be vintage either, but it's still useful, and I do want to get some use out of it, so it's going to get Linux on there. That'll be a separate video of us getting that together, but for now, let's just get it apart and clean. Okay, next step, we're going to disconnect the hard drive. Pretty simple right there. Very small ribbon cable. And then the hard drive kind of just pops out like that. It's got a couple studs on the end that go into retaining holes on the inside. This does look like it is the original hard drive. It has the Apple logo on it. Yeah, 17 July 2011 is the date on this. So not a bad life for spinning rust, especially for how well this thing breathed over the years. I'm going to try to keep the tobacco stuff off my nice mat. All right, next step is to get the logic board out. Now there are a couple small cables on the end here you want to make sure you pull out before you pull them out. There's also two screws here. One came out on the fan already. It's like a screw within a screw. The other one is this long little guy here that goes right there. Now normally you would have a little pry tool, but my screwdriver that I thought was going to work was a little too thick, so nothing to worry about there. Let's go ahead and carefully get our little cable out of here. I should have had a little plastic tool, but I seem to have misplaced it. So that popped out pretty easy. And then when you don't have the actual pry tool, you can carefully apply a little bit of pressure on the edge of the motherboard or logic board, and then you can release the power supply cable, which is over here. Once you get that out, the whole logic board should just slide right out like that. Pretty easy. You do have a little BR2032 battery on the bottom here. This thing is pretty old, so I am going to get a new CMOS battery installed in here. You can use CR2032, but they are not the same chemical composition as the BR2032s. The BR2032s have a little bit more tolerance for heat and warm computers, where this is all pretty tight packed. So, and it is on the other side of the Wi-Fi card, so you are going to have a little heat in that area. So let's get you over here. At this point, it's pretty straightforward. You've got a few more plastic brackets in here. You've got a power supply. There's a little pull tab on here. You just pull that to the side. You might need a pair of pliers or something if you don't have good enough grip on it. There you go, a little wiggle and it comes right out. So it doesn't need pliers or anything. It's pretty thin metal to begin with. Once you get that out, the entire plug just turns to the, I guess, the left, right, whatever your orientation is, counterclockwise looking at it. And then that will release that part of the power supply. A couple more screws, and then it should pop right out. Let's go ahead and get the rest of the plastic brackets out of here too. There we go, power supply is out. It's not a sealed unit, but there is no airflow going through it, so this should hopefully be somewhat clean in comparison. You can take the plastic cover off. Not sure I want to do that with this. It may not be necessary to clean the power supply, as once this is all together, you're not going to smell anything going through it, hopefully. There still is the fan. We're going to see about cleaning that up thoroughly. This little bracket comes out. On this bracket, you got the IR sensor. That's the little connector that goes to the back of the logic board. We can set that aside. And looking at this thing, there is not much else. There's some plastic bits and pieces in here. Overall, the inside is a 1994 Denver, Colorado smoking room color. So If you ever flown through Denver, that was one of the last airports with a smoking section. And it looked pretty close to this. So yeah, now that we got everything electronic out of this thing, we can go ahead and scrub it down. I'm going to go and give this thing a full bath. That includes the logic board here. We are going to pull out the CMOS battery. I am going to go ahead and remove the heatsink because I'm going to repaste it. The Wi-Fi card, the speaker, we're going to get all that off. Take off this plastic bracket and tear this thing down as far as it'll go. Speaker's just going to get wiped down. I'm not going to get that soaked. But yeah, now that we got that apart, let's go ahead and get the logic board ripped down just a little further. Why not? I'm here. Now, the good thing about this is if I had to, I could just buy new power supply, new speaker, whatever. This stuff comes pretty cheap because when Apple discontinues these products and they no longer support the operating system, they get pretty cheap. So you can easily get a lot of this stuff for next to nothing. And I recommend highly that you get one of these if you just need a basic little Linux box. They're pretty cheap and they're easy to come by. Got your power button on this side, running up to the logic board there. That's pretty straightforward. It does look like it comes out, so I might be able to wash everything on this and remove the power button because buttons don't like to get washed all the time. Now, as you can imagine, the inside of the ports themselves are pretty disgusting. The Ethernet, the USB. In fact, when I dropped off the new computer, the M2, he used the old keyboard, and when I plugged it into the USB port, it didn't want to work. The contacts were pretty dirty. We had to clean the contacts to get that to work. So yeah, long-term smoke damage to a computer is a thing. Alright, so the only thing holding this back bracket on now are the Wi-Fi antenna cables. So once you release those from the hold, then you're going to want to fish this one out through the top, into the bottom. Careful not to mash the connector itself. Once that is released and your power cable is released, this comes right off. And it is also as disgusting as you could imagine. Yeah, it's pretty nasty. If you look at my fingers here, it's something. So we are going to go ahead and take off every last piece of this that can come apart, including that little heatsink that goes over the chipset or something, whatever. It's a little bit of thermal paste on there. I'll reapply fresh. It's probably for the best. And now let's go ahead and get the main heatsink off. This one is pretty straightforward. There are 4 screws, 1 smaller Torx. It's kind of uniform with the rest. That looks like a spacer. Then you go to the larger Torx, T10, and that'll take care of your heatsink here. The screws are spring-loaded. And when you put this back together, you're going to want to do like a little crisscross pattern. Those screws are pretty disgusting too. So you're probably going to see me in a couple different shirts because I'm going to finish tearing this down tonight. I'm going to clean it tomorrow, let it dry, and you know, the magic of editing, this will be a 20-30 minute video. And there we go. The thermal paste is still tacky. That's pretty amazing. I've never seen a computer this old with wet thermal paste. It makes me wonder if he took it somewhere. Or Apple's using amazing stuff in 2011. I've never seen thermal paste this clean or this fresh. It does look factory, but it's still wet. Maybe the tar held the moisture in. Very possible. But there's your I believe your CPU and graphics driver, I believe, or vice versa. I don't have the white paper in front of me right now to tell. Will this tell me anything about the CPU that is on it? Not without me wiping it off. A little bit of foam on there. Probably to act as a little air filter. That's going to fall apart the second I start washing it. But it's got to go. I'd rather not have it than have the dirt it holds. There is a sticker on here, serial number of the board. The part number is 631-1739. My guess is that it's the base model. I really don't think we would have bought him anything high-end at any time because it's just a email and web browsing machine. Everything else looks okay. We've got our display port, we've got our Thunderbolt, 4 USB, HDMI, RJ45, camera reader or SD card reader, and your audio in and out. And that's everything on the board here. So there you go. This is the first half. We're going to go ahead and scrub the rest of it. All right, welcome to the cleaning section of the video. I'm going to take off my watch and ring. We're going to go through each little part here. That was the fan, a little plastic insert there where a hard drive sets into, the cover obviously, your Wi-Fi antenna, RAM, all sorts of stuff. You're going to want to remove the thermal paste if you still have that on there. Pretty easy, paper towel. You don't want to get the power button wet. The RAM as well, Wi-Fi card, logic board, nice and easy. Remove all the thermal paste off of that as well, front and back. Pop the battery out. I used a knife because that's what I had. You can see how nasty that thing is. We're going to clean that out real quick. A little bit more thermal paste, tiny bits and pieces, and also we're going to take apart the fan. So to take apart the fan, there's a few clips on there and one screw. You take the screw out, pop, 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 and there you go. Pretty nasty, but we're going to get it started here. We're going to start washing it. Get the water nice and warm. Use some Dawn foaming action detergent. That stuff is amazing because it comes off easy. It doesn't stick to it like a gel or anything like that. And it just cleans real easy. And, you're going to do inside and out of this whole thing. We're going to wash it. You're going to see how dirty the water is as I'm doing this. It's also very helpful to have a parts cleaning brush. The sponge and whatnot can't get everywhere. That little brush does a great job. Here we go with the logic board. We're going to once again spray it and use that parts cleaning brush. We're going to get into all the little cracks and crevices. Once again, you want to make sure that your battery has been pulled out and enough time has been given for it to discharge. It shouldn't take too long, and there's really not that much charge anyways. You want to get all the ports clean. You see the water. It's pretty nasty. Now we're doing a heat sink. It's very important that you clean out the inside of the heat sink. There's a lot of air that flows through there. You're not really restricting the airflow because, it's still pretty big holes, but you're going to smell whatever smoke was in there, so you want to get everything clean. And it's pretty straightforward, simple. Scrub it down, clean it good, make sure there's no soap left on it, and shake off the excess water. All right, next we're going to be taking a look at the fan. This thing is nasty. If you can see my hand here, I know it's going by quick, but it was disgusting. Now look how quickly this water turns orange. You see that splash off the brush there? That's all the cigarette tar over the years, just flowing through that thing. And quick clean with a brush and warm water. It did the trick here, as you can see. You want to make sure you go through each fin, front and back, and give it a quick once over, and you're pretty much good. It cleans up really quick. I didn't need to use a sonic cleaner for any of this. I thought I was going to, but it all came apart and cleaned up really good. That water is disgusting. Same deal. We're cleaning another part. This is the cover. This is right next to your fan. And there went my camera. I hate my camera mount. I need a new one. But, yep, there's me checking the camera to make sure it didn't break. Luckily it didn't. And back to cleaning. Oh, I put the power button in the water. Did not want to do that, but I did. So I went ahead with it. It's already in the water. May as well clean it. Clean, real fast. Talking fast. Super speed. A couple small parts to go, and only a few more seconds of this wash. Here we got the Wi-Fi. Once again, water, soap, repeat. And all this has made it so much better. No more smell. And there you go. All right, welcome back to the desk. I got everything cleaned up as you saw in the video. It was pretty thoroughly disgusting. This thing came out really good. Everything's pretty clean. I'm willing to wear a white shirt now. So that's how confident I am and how clean this is. Got everything cleaned up here. What I didn't show in the video is after this was cleaned, I went over it with the Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. That is great for these bare aluminum non-anodized Macs. If you do have an anodized Mac, it will scratch up your coating. You don't want to mess with that. I am going to be upgrading the RAM, even though I washed the RAM. I'm just going to test this and put it in my known good RAM pile. I reassembled the logic board and everything that goes on. The few things I couldn't or didn't want to submerge, cable harnesses, power supply, the Wi-Fi antennas, I went ahead and used the alcohol wipes, little rubbing alcohol, cleaned it up pretty good. The fan was completely submerged. Should be fine. I made sure it was thoroughly dried. After I did the wash, I followed up everything with distilled water, and then I gave it a pretty stiff air dry with my shop vac, blowing warm air on it from the shop vac. After that, I put it in the oven for about an hour at 170 degrees. That's the lowest temperature my oven goes to. Did pretty good at getting everything dry. The power button, as you saw, accidentally got dipped. I planned on washing just this half underwater and then using alcohol in this, but it fell in the water because I had slippery, soapy hands. So let's hope that works. The other thing is the dead hard drive I am getting rid of, like that, and I am replacing it with an SSD. This particular SSD is of some size, 275 gig. So this will be plenty for this old machine for what I need to do with it. I already transferred the little Torx screws on here that mount into the machine. And let's go ahead and get this back together. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is put the power supply back in. Okay, once that is in, you're going to want to put your little clip back in. That'll retain it in place. That's pretty straightforward. It slides right in. It keeps this plug connector in place. After that's done, you're going to want to go ahead and slide the logic board back in there. And before you put it all the way in, you may as well go ahead and connect your SSD. If you're going this far, you definitely want to put an SSD in these things. It just runs so much better. And because it's kind of a tight fit, it's just easier to do this before the logic board is all the way in. I'm just going to take the logic board out. Let's just put this thing in first, because it is a little bit of a tight fit. Okay, once that's in there, you'll feel it kind of clip into those two little holes that are where the Torx screws are located. And then your logic board should be able to slide in there carefully. Go ahead and get your power supply cable lined up. All right, so the hardest thing to do in this entire thing, this entire rebuild, is plugging the power supply back in. I'm sure there's some easy tips and tricks to it, but this one was a little hard. So now that that is in, the logic board can slide the rest of the way back in. Go ahead and connect your hard drive, SSD in my case. Go ahead and reconnect your IR sensor, which is the little cable right there. This is two 8 gig sticks. I forget the exact speed, 10600 or something to that effect. Go ahead and place those in. Everything is going great so far. Knock on fake wood. There's a little clip that the plastic should clip onto. Took a couple tries, but we got it. There you go. I did forget one screw, so I had to take it back apart. Yay me. So got that one screw on there. Everything is going proper. That is back in, and now for the fan. Screws for the fan pretty much retain themselves in there. I did cook the fan in the oven with the logic board, not as long, about 15-20 minutes versus the full hour that I put the logic board in the oven for. Now take your Wi-Fi antenna here. You're going to want to kind of put the cable inside the machine first to line up the connector on there. Give it a solid push down. All right, there's that. The first thing you want to put back in is the screws that screw into the SSD, mainly because you are going to possibly drop it down there a little bit further if you don't screw it in right away. So go ahead and get that started. And then it's pretty safe from there. It's not going to fall down below at all. Now on OWC, you can order a second hard drive kit, or iFixit, I believe. I believe they both sell them. That way you can go ahead and put a second hard drive, second SSD inside this thing. Make it a little server, whatever you want to do with it. This thing is old, but it's still very capable, as we're going to see. So that is everything. Everything is sealed up. Everything is back together. So let's go ahead and put it back together the rest of the way. All right, next time I see you, I'm going to have a monitor hooked up here, and we're going to be booting into an OS of some sort. All right, here we go. I believe there's an OS on this drive. Came out of my other MacBook. We got a chime. Quick test I did before hitting record here. I did notice the little indicator light is out. When I was taking the IR sensor connector out, it kind of lifted up the actual connector on the logic board just a tad. So I might have to take a closer look at that, reflow it. I don't necessarily need the IR for this thing. I'm not going to use that, but it would be nice to have a little status indicator light showing that it is actually on. Now, I am not seeing an Apple yet. Okay, there it is. There's the Apple. Took a minute. Probably doing a little bit of memory training for the new RAM. And it's very quiet, but I can hear the fan moving and I can feel a little bit of airflow. There we go. There is a login of some sort. I do not remember my password for this. I'll try one of my common ones. Let's just try password. Nope. All right, I'm going to try my normal password. I'll cut that out. Okay, password typed. There you go. This is probably Snow Leopard or Leopard. Okay, it's actually macOS Lion. So I think that's what this shipped with originally, if I recall. This came out of my other MacBook that is pretty old, like one of the original Core Duos. This is working great. This is back up and running. So it was disgusting. It was absolutely just trashed inside and out, as you saw. A little bit of, soap, elbow grease, whatnot. We got it up and running. Just showing that this is running basic Mac OS. That's to be expected. On my next upcoming video, we're going to be playing around with a few different versions of Linux to see what works the best on these old Macs. I hope you guys like this video. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, get it, get the channel a little bit of buzz. That'd be nice. So, stay tuned for the next video. Like I said, we're going to be throwing a bunch of different versions of Linux on this and seeing what sticks. Stay tuned.